welcome back to Logan's Voice. I'm Doug Ballinger, Logan's dad. There's a lot of talk about grief during the winter holidays, Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, but not nearly enough about the ones that creep in during the spring. For a lot of us, Easter and Memorial Day bring their own kind of pain. They sneak up on us with messages of hope, rebirth, family gatherings, and celebration, while we're still carrying the weight of an empty chair. Maybe it's the pastel colors and blooming flowers. Maybe it's the cookouts, the flags, the gatherings. Maybe it's the quiet reminder that someone we love isn't here to witness any of it. In today's episode, we're talking about how to survive spring holidays when you're grieving a traumatic loss, especially the kind of loss no one wants to talk about. Whether you lost someone to fentanyl poisoning, overdose, suicide, or something sudden and devastating, this episode is for you. Easter is one of those holidays that carries a heavy emotional weight, especially when you're grieving. It's supposed to be a time of renewal, of resurrection, of light returning after darkness. But when you've lost someone, especially to a sudden traumatic death, all of that light can feel blinding. Like the world's joy is too loud, too colorful, too much. Like everyone else is celebrating rebirth while you're still trying to breathe through the weight of what was lost. I'll be honest, Easter hits me in the gut because I remember what it used to be like. Logan was that kid who loved the candy, the egg hunts, the big family meal. He'd sneak a second chocolate bunny when no one was looking. He'd laugh from the deepest part of his belly, and he made the whole room feel brighter. Now? Now there's just this ache where he used to sit. An empty chair at the table that everyone sees but no one wants to talk about. A basket we don't fill anymore. A silence between traditions that once made us feel whole. And Easter, with all its messages of new life and hope, feels like a contradiction. Because for people like us, people who have buried a child or a sibling or a partner to fentanyl poisoning or overdose, there's no clear-cut resurrection story. Not here, not yet. Sometimes it feels like the world skipped ahead to celebration while we're still standing at the tomb. But here's what I've come to realize. Grief doesn't cancel Easter. It just changes the way we move through it. And if this season feels like salt in a wound, you're not wrong. You're not broken. You're not failing at faith or family or healing. You're just a human trying to carry unimaginable loss into a season that talks about joy and rebirth like those things are easy. If all you do this Easter is light a candle in your loved one's name, or sit in silence for 5 minutes and cry, or stay off social media because the photos are just too much, that's enough. There's no right way to do this. And if you find yourself smiling at a memory one moment and sobbing in the next, that's grief. That's love surviving the space where they used to be. This season isn't about pretending everything's okay. It's about finding small ways to honor what we've lost, while still holding space for what might one day grow in its place. But you don't have to force that growth today. You don't have to bloom on command. Sometimes just surviving Easter is your act of courage. So if your Easter looks like pajamas and tears instead of church clothes and ham, if it looks like skipping brunch instead of setting the table, if it looks like a quiet walk or a whispered, I miss you, I want you to know you are not alone. You're still honoring them, you're still loving them, and in your own way, you're still here. And that matters. And Memorial Day. For most people, it's a long weekend, the start of summer, grills fired up, flags waving, maybe a trip to the lake or to visit a cemetery. But for people like us, people grieving a son, a daughter, a brother, a partner, Memorial Day carries a different weight, especially when your loss didn't come in a uniform. When your loss came in silence behind a closed door in a moment that no one saw coming. I know what it's supposed to be about, honoring those who've died in service to our country, and I respect that deeply. But trauma isn't reserved for combat, and death doesn't only ask for a salute. There's a war going on in our communities too, a chemical war, a war of poison drugs, a war against silence, stigma, and shame. And the battlefield is our home, our schools, and our neighborhoods. And the casualties, they look like Logan. They look like your loved one. They look like the thousands of people we've lost to overdose and fentanyl poisoning. Many of them never knew they were taking a fatal dose. So for me, Memorial Day has become a day of personal remembrance, a moment to light a candle, a moment to say his name out loud, a moment to remind people that his death wasn't the result of a bad choice, it was the result of a broken system, a poisoned supply, and a culture that still doesn't want to talk about addiction until it's too late. You might be surrounded by friends, grilling burgers and laughing in the sun, and feeling like the only one who's remembering. And if that's you, I see you. If Memorial Day brings up the memory of paramedics or court dates or obituaries you never thought you'd write, you're not alone. And maybe, like me, you also feel that conflict between grief and guilt. You want to remember, you want to honor them, but you also just want the day to be over. So here's what I want you to know. You don't need a uniform to be worthy of remembrance. You don't need your grief to be recognized by a parade or a flag. If you lost someone to fentanyl poisoning, overdose, suicide, trauma, Memorial Day can be your day too. It can be a day to plant something in their memory, write their name on a river stone and place it in your garden, cook their favorite meal, visit the place you scattered their ashes, or simply stay home and cry in peace, knowing you're still honoring them in the only way you know how. And if you're feeling isolated because no one around you gets it, reach out. Come to our support groups. Connect with others who are grieving in the same quiet, unseen way. We may not get 21 gun salutes for the ones we've lost, but that doesn't mean they don't deserve to be remembered, and it doesn't mean we don't deserve to grieve in whatever way we need to. And this next part is about reclaiming meaning in the middle of the mess. Spring is full of messages about new life, growth, and starting fresh. But for those of us grieving someone we can't get back, especially after a sudden traumatic loss, those messages can sting. Because what no one tells you is that sometimes the new life you're forced to build starts in the ashes of the old one. And it's messy. It doesn't come with a sunrise or a choir singing hallelujah. It comes with tears on a porch swing, silence at the dinner table, an ache you can't explain when the birds start singing again. But even in that mess, there's room to make meaning. Not to get over it, not to wrap your grief in a pretty bow, but to say, this mattered, they mattered, and I'm still here, so I'm going to find a way to carry this with love. And let me be clear, you don't need to start a foundation, you don't need to write a book, You don't need to be strong for everyone else. Sometimes meaning looks like lighting a candle and whispering their name, writing them a letter and tucking it into the pages of your Bible, starting a garden and planting their favorite flower, donations to harm reduction programs in their names, or creating a small ritual like wearing their favorite color on the hard days or cooking their favorite food on Memorial Day. For me, it's this podcast. It's Logan's voice. It's telling the truth about who he was. It's speaking his name so the world doesn't forget him. It's making space for you, for every parent, sibling, or friend trying to figure out how to breathe through a season that feels like it's moving on without them. Some days I still fall apart, and other days I find the strength to speak up. Both are part of the process. Both are sacred. Because reclaiming meaning doesn't mean pretending you're okay. It means finding moments, just moments, where grief and love can exist side by side, where pain doesn't silence memory and memory becomes a form of prayer. So if you're looking for a way to survive this season, start with that. One small, intentional act of remembrance. One quiet moment where you give yourself permission to honor your person, your grief, and your story. You don't need to rush your healing to make others comfortable. You don't need to put on a smile just because the calendar says it's a holiday. Spring can still belong to you even if it looks nothing like it used to. And that's more than enough. The chair may be empty, but love is not. As we close out today's episode, I just want to speak directly to anyone who's walking through this season with a shattered heart. Maybe it's your first Easter without them, or your fifth Memorial Day where you still feel like the world forgot who you lost. Maybe you're tired of smiling when you want to scream. Maybe you're holding it together in front of everyone and falling apart in your car or your kitchen or your church pew. I've been there. I still go there some days. And I want you to know you do not have to pretend this doesn't hurt. The chair is still empty. The photos are still frozen in time. The memories come like waves, warm, then cold, then overwhelming. But here's the truth I've come to know, the one I want to leave you with today. Grief is an echo of love that has nowhere to go. And love like that, it doesn't die. It just changes shape. It becomes a candle, a story, a tattoo, a garden, a podcast, a whisper name in the quiet of spring, a book. You can carry this pain, and you can still hold space for light. You can cry on Easter morning and still see something beautiful bloom by afternoon. You can miss them deeply on Memorial Day and still choose to honor the life they lived, not just the way they died. You are not broken, you are grieving, and there's nothing more human than that. So go gently. Cancel what you need to, hold close what brings you comfort, and remember, you are not alone. At Logan's Voice, we say their names. We hold space for the pain. We refuse to let stigma silence the love that still remains. So if this episode helped you feel a little more seen, please share it. Tag someone who needs to know they're not crazy for hurting during a time when everyone else is smiling. And if you need support or just someone to walk this path with, send me a direct message. Visit logansvoice.com. Until next time, I'm Doug, and I'm Logan's dad, and this is Logan's Voice. And to those with empty chairs at the table this spring, we see you, we carry them with you, and we remember. I am Logan's Voice. I am Logan's dad, and I will not be silent anymore.